that has a plan to restore the American Republic. Yes. And I gained enough support from those with whom I met to decide that I would move forward. And it meant burning all of my bridges, placing at risk the work of the Conservative caucus, which depended on the support of Republican donors. But nonetheless, I decided that it was the right thing to do. We started out gaining the support of the California Party, without which we could not have moved forward, because it would cost about $2 million to get on the ballot in California alone. Thank God, the late Bill Shearer embraced my concept and gave us support. We went forward. We had our founding convention in New Orleans, in 1992. I went to literally 35 people of greater notoriety, urging them to become our candidate for president, or at least to consider it. Every one of them turned me down, and I said, well, if I believe this needs to be done, and no one else will do it, then I'll do it. So I became a candidate that year. We were on the ballot in 22 states, and we made some progress. We laid the groundwork for progress in '96 and again in 2000 and 2004. This year could be a breakthrough year for us, because great people like your two candidates here are flocking to the banner of the Constitution Party, and because there is growing revulsion with the policies of the Republican Party. Yes. George Bush has been one of the most liberal presidents in American history. His entrance into Iraq, especially because it lacked a congressional declaration of war, was one of the greatest tragedies in American history. Tens of thousands of innocent people have died because of it. And I refer to non-combatants in Iraq, who are God's children, as are we. And Iraq did not blow up the buildings on September 11, nor did Saddam Hussein, nor were there weapons of mass destruction. This was, 9/11 was an excuse for Bush to go into Iraq. I'm glad that at least one Republican presidential candidate, Ron Paul, is saying, let's get out. It's long past time to get out. Let's get out. And that's something that the Constitution Party nationally stands for. And we say that with no disrespect for the heroism, the bravery, the wonderful sacrifices made by our people. Members of my family have died in war, have fought in war. My uncle, Israel Goldberg, died on the Bataan Death March. Other of my relatives have fought in America's wars. And I have nothing but the highest regard for our military men. My eldest son, Doug, is named after Douglas MacArthur. And I'm delighted that on his 10th birthday, he was able to spend 3 hours in Norfolk, Virginia with Jeannie MacArthur, the widow of the late general, who shared with Doug great stories about General MacArthur, and who gave him a personally autographed photo of the surrender on board the USS Missouri, the Japanese surrender. In fact, we were with Mrs. MacArthur on the 30th anniversary of the Japanese surrender at the MacArthur Memorial in Norfolk, which I was privileged to host, and we had as among our speakers Isaac Kidd, Commander-in-Chief of the Atlantic Fleet. But that was a great experience we'll always remember. So we have the highest regard. I took my boys to all of the service academies to have them favorably consider the possibility of applying for admission. For various reasons, they chose to do otherwise. And things have turned out well. Many of you know my son Doug as a result of the work he does with Vision Forum, servicing 800,000 homeschool families out of San Antonio, Texas. My son Brad just came back from 2 years in the Sudan, where he and his wife and 4 kids, they were based in Kenya, have been leading the Persecution Project Foundation to aid Christians being ravaged by the Islamo-fascist government, Marxist government in Khartoum. And Brad helped build churches, he helped build schools, helped dig water wells. He built a huge staff thing. He was the principal military and political advisor to the Sudanese People's Liberation Army. And we thank God that God protected him while he was over there, enabled him to come home with us. All of my other kids are wonderful, and I won't bore you by giving you all of the details, but I thank God for each and every one of them, the actress, the opera singer, the athletes, every one of them was terrific. The Constitution Party is unique because we are faithful to the Constitution of the United States. The most important issue to us is the defense of innocent life at both ends of the spectrum. We oppose euthanasia. That's why we prayed and worked for Terry Schiavo, a name that was unfamiliar to Fred Thompson. And that's why we believe that every one of God's creatures is a human person from the moment of creation. Amen. We believe that no person should be executed without due process of law and for a legitimate purpose, right, regardless of its parentage. We should not execute unborn children who are the children of rapists. Execute the rapist, don't execute the child. No unborn child should be executed. Abortion is America's greatest evident sin. Right. And God is beginning to chastise us, and he will chastise us more until we end the massacre of the unborn. Some 50 million innocent children have been executed. I'd rather have those 50 million people here than the 20 or 30 million illegal aliens who are here. Not that I have anything against those people personally. I love every one of God's creatures. I bear hatred to no one. But I think it's important that the laws be enforced. I think it's important that American citizens be protected from rape and murder and physical assault from people who are convicted criminals who've been ordered deported but who are still here ravaging the innocent. Right. This party has a uniquely strong position on abortion, on immigration, on the war in Iraq. There are some Democrats who to some degree agree with us. Ron Paul agrees with us. Ron is a very good man. He's a dear friend of mine and has been ever since he entered Congress. We oppose all unconstitutional federal spending. Right. And we want to go back to the constitutional system for raising revenues for the legitimate functions of the federal government. And lest I get it wrong, let me quote to you from the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8. That's the section of the Constitution that gives Congress its authority. And it says, very simply, here, quote, "The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States." So in other words, until the 16th Amendment, which was questionably added to the Constitution, it was clear that tariffs and excise or sales taxes were the only legitimate way of funding the federal government. Our party's platform, a copy of which I carry in my pocket, and which I would encourage each of you to obtain, it's on the internet, constitutionparty.com, makes clear that we favor the repeal of the 16th Amendment, the abolition of the IRS, the elimination of the income tax, and our candidates here in Massachusetts are committed to that platform. Article 1 of the Constitution says, and this is tragically disregarded, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. All.